It's been interesting to see the international reaction to Trump, though. Like, Trump has all these international fans. And I wonder if, like, some of the things that they believe that he's fighting against here, they hope that their government officials would fight against. Like, corruption is not a thing unique to America in any way, right? Institutional distrust is not unique to America. So when you brand around this idea of like, hey, we're taking down these corrupt institutions, you know, we're taking down these corrupt politicians, we're draining the swamp. Like, shit, every country out there is like, yeah, why don't you drain this swamp? That's the reason I'm broke, because that swamp is so fucking big. So,
bro, speaking of Trump in India, did you see him talk to this reporter?
This shit was so good, bro.
This is one of the all-time.
This shit is so
I mean, he's
good.
just a clip machine.
I never
Do
related
you think
to
that
him
should
more.
continue here in the US as well?
You're going to have to go louder.
Mr. President, people in India would be welcoming your decision to extradite Tahabur Rana to...
I can't understand a word he's saying.
See? It's not just me.
So
No,
pause.
I had trouble understanding.
So this is an interesting. I want to get back to this side. Like, this is an interesting thing that I've noticed with Trump is like, people always say this. I especially liberals often say this. They're like, why the fuck do working class people relate to this guy? He's a billionaire. And I think an interesting thing with Trump is that, like, billionaires don't really relate to him. He talks working class. Right? Like, that's a working class thing to say. Like, a billionaire polished person would be like, would you mind repeating yourself? Like, because he understands the repercussions of saying some shit like that. But a dude that works at the plant and some Indian guy's asking him a question is like, yo, can someone translate the English to English? I have no fucking clue what's going on. And that relatability allows him to connect to those people, which financially he's not connected with at all. I was talking to the reporter that we had on, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
That he was here just about that. And it was we had that conversation about like, what is the fundamental issue? Like, what is the issue with the Democrats? And we were talking out in the hallway, and it was like, Republicans, and not all of them at all, but like, Trump feels like he can hang. He feels like you could talk to him and you're not like worried about what you say. With Democrats, if it was a private room and nobody's around, and we had fucking Tim Walz in here, we got fucking Buttigieg or some, like one of these guys, like, yeah, we could hang, we could say whatever, and it doesn't really matter. But the second the cameras go on, they're like, if I mention the pronouns thing is a little bit absurd, am I going to get blowback? And they don't know where the line is. I think, Mark, you said something like that. They just don't know where it is. And when you don't know where the line is, you speak in this like unrelatable way. Right? And that is something that Democrats are going to have to figure out. You have to figure out how to just speak freely and relate to normal people. And you can't do that when you don't even know where your line is.
No, I figure they just have too many donors that have special interests. And it's like, ooh, if I say this one thing, I'm going to piss off this donor.
But
if
also
I say this one thing, it's up.
I think you catch Republicans with that, especially with like the gun stuff. But there's a little bit more like, and it's going to get obviously too far and be annoying on the Republican side as well. But there's a little bit more freedom to be like, shut up with that kind of nonsense. You're being ridiculous.
And
whereas like
Trump.
Democrats are like, all right, I'm gonna piss off the identity politics people. I'm gonna piss off these people. I'm gonna piss off those people. You're constantly concerned about the piss off, and he doesn't seem that concerned about pissing people off, which is refreshing.
He's also in an easier spot. Like, right-wing people in general are able to just be like, hey, let's just go back. We're conservative. Let's not change shit. Whereas liberal people have to be like, all right, what are we changing? What are we pushing forward as policy? And what are the new lines? They're literally trying to find new lines, so they don't really have a sort of cognizant view of what the lines are.
Like, when your party is wrapped around progress, you have to continue to progress. And sometimes you maybe progress too far. Like, NATO's job is to expand. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you work in NATO, they're like, all right, where else can we get NATO? And then maybe you go too far. And then maybe there's a war that none of us want to be a part of.
If the ACLU is like, shit's pretty good, they're done. It's a wrap. We don't need you anymore.
But you do need progressives. Because you need to get to a point where they're not fucking lighting gay people on fire. So it's that unfortunate pendulum swing, and they need to find a way to be progressive without alienating the majority. Because I feel like in their efforts to embrace minorities and embrace the people who don't really have a voice, they've kind of alienated the working class, which is the majority of people in the country. So they need to figure that shit out. And that shit ain't easy. It's not as easy as going and get the pronouns out of here. Like, That's a tough.
It's the class issue that they're like tiptoeing around.
What you mean?
Like they don't want to acknowledge the class issue and like try to go at like billionaires the way Bernie did.
Oh,
So,
because they're in bed with the billionaires.
Yeah, like
oh wait, the Democrats or the Republicans?
Democrats. Like I mean, kind of everyone.
think both.
But like
Yeah.
Democrats, like in America, are like kind of right in comparison to the rest of the world. So like they're tiptoeing around the class issue and going at like all the like pop culture shit.
Yeah, Republicans being in bed with
wow.
billionaires doesn't surprise us. It's in line with lower
Yo,
taxes. They're the party for the rich.
But that is a great point. Like if they made their cause about the wealth gap and then let all the other stuff kind of go to the side. I'm not saying we just fucking ignore what gay people, whatever. I'm not saying ignore, but if they made the core identity of it, Bernie, which was, hey, you got these institutions that are taking advantage of you and you got these rich people that are taking advantage of you. I think that the average working class person could kind of look the other way about some pronoun shit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But because, like you said, they're afraid to address it, they got to lock into these other things that, unfortunately, for those people, the rest of America really doesn't care about at the same level that they care about the wealth inequality.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And
I mean, frankly, it's a
Republicans
bigger
are-
issue that affects more people.
it is.
Yeah.
It just... it is what
And
it
Republicans are the party of the rich, and a lot of them think, "Oh, I'm going to be rich too one day." So
That's
it's like-
Americans.
yeah.
Every American think
Yeah.
they're going to be a millionaire. Okay, so then what happens in India? What happens with these guys? Like,
So they've already taken down all the episodes. Like, that show is off the air. It's not... I tried to look up how many views there were.
They took it down, or the government took it?
I think they were like the government was like, take down all the episodes, and they were like, we will comply. I don't know for a fact, but it seems like what it is based on reading. Like somebody put, sorry, they both apologized. I wasn't trying to offend anybody. I wasn't whatever, which was like, again, in America, you don't have to do that. I think in India, you have to fucking do that. So I don't know. I just tweeted before I even knew what was happening. I was like, I don't give a fuck what Ranveer said. I know him. I like him as family. I'm riding with him. Then I said something else, and somebody was like, somebody should be fined every time they cuss. I said, suck my dick, you dumbass motherfucker, which I thought was a joke. These tweets made it to the Times of India because here you can just stand up for those guys. There you cannot. Nobody's saying it.
Oh, your tweets, made.
My tweets, their whole article. An Indian comedian who interviewed Trump.
You need to chill the fuck out.
But again, I can stand. I'm not going to criticize the government. I just know I can stand on what comedy is and what free speech is. I'm comfortable. I'm confident in that. The government, theoretically, if they do pass this law, they're not doing anything unconstitutional. So as much as I'm afraid of them, I wouldn't even say what you're doing is X, Y, Z, because that is the Constitution. They are within their... I can't call it some gross misuse of power. The Constitution was written cucky.
It's also fascinating how native freedom of speech is and like expression is in America.
Yeah.
That like even seeing the response from like Indian like Twitter users being like, oh, this is disgusting. Like this guy's a creep. He's issuing this apology. It was deliberate act in full consciousness. Like,
Keep in mind, marital rape is legal in India. You can't rape your wife in India. Impossible for that to be illegal. A hypothetical about fucking somebody.
Wow.
That's illegal.
What is this word, sanskar? Do you have
Sanskar is, I think, traditions.
So decency, culture, and traditions are not his forte.
Yeah.
So basically people saying you're violating what it means to be Indian, which is like decency and respect.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
But then you got to wonder, like, is the way America does shit, like freedom of expression in America, is that applicable to all people? Is that inalienable and human, or is that just a cultural thing?
That's a cultural thing.
You know what I mean? Like, so at a certain point as Americans, do you look at this and go, oh, if that's what works for them,
Yeah. And
or should we stand up for freedom of speech and for comedy?
that is
Like,
the issue. And
It's the age-old question, man.
I think we are often, I was like, freedom of speech is under attack in India. It doesn't exist.
yeah.
It's such a crazy notion that we are in a country, like cancel culture is like, people fucking use it to make money, I think, here a lot, and it's a little annoying. There, it is truly your life is in jeopardy. We'll throw you in jail. We'll take everything from everyone you love. Don't fuck around.
Is this one of those things where we're projecting our values in the same way that we're like, yo, you got to let women drive in the Middle East or whatever, just because we let them drive here. So now we're projecting our values on them. And we believe that free speech is a good, righteous, kind thing that human beings should have.
And over there, they're like, we have way less accidents, bro. What the fuck?
Like, we're good.
But it is the same, like, what is it, like intellectual imperialism, if you will. Like, we're not over there boots on the ground, but we're basically shaming you if you don't get American with your shit.
Yeah.
at the same time, as a comedian, I'm like, I want comedians to be able to say way crazier jokes than that.
I'm going to support every Indian comic saying whatever. That's just a fundamental thing for me as an American who is a comic.
And the government over there is like, that's cute.
Yeah.
So
that's not the way our
we're going to kill all of
written.
them.
So what do you want to do?
Yeah, comedy isn't even part of their like identity as a nation. Like comedy is an American art form. Yeah. I can't imagine America. I can't imagine like American cultural institutions without comedy. Yeah, and a restriction on that we reject almost instinctually.
Yeah, it's like what's it viscerally? It makes me sick.
But this is some new shit over there. It's like
comedy's literally. I've done comedy longer than the country of India. It started, I think, December 2009. They like know exactly when it started. It's brand new to them. But I started 2007.
I wonder if it's like if they were like, breakdancing is vulgar. And we'd be like, what are you talking? It's not, it's just dancing. They're like, nah, we outlawing that shit.
Yeah.
Like that's how new it is to them. So they're like, we can do without breakdancing. We've been here for 5,000 years and there was no fucking breakdancing. Yeah. We'll be fine without it.
And we're also like taken off guard by this because we're like, there's no way that could happen here.
Yeah.
But there, you almost have to wonder, like, did they know, right? Like, I don't think that's what happened in this case, but like, let's say there's a comedian that's warned 2 times. Like, hey, the jokes you're saying, you're going to get put in jail. And then he says it a 3rd time. Is all of a sudden is our empathy for their restriction of freedom of speech the same? Because it's like, yo, you understood what the consequences.
This is why. Sorry, the other thing, people are like making an example of him. Maybe they are. I don't know. To me, it's weird because if they were doing that, he's been fairly. The criticism I hear a lot about Ranveer is he's very like the government's whatever. Like he's pro-government, pro-whatever. Like he's up their ass when people criticize him. So for them to make him the example, I'm like, well, that doesn't even add up to me.
Well,
could be possible, but it just doesn't add up to me.
Is there any? You said he's the Rogan of India, right?
Yeah.
Is there any version where they're looking at America and? All right, let me bring it back. You know how like China locked up their tech CEOs?
Yeah.
And I imagine they looked at America and maybe other countries, and they saw that the power that these like tech CEOs had, and their ability to influence culture, laws, and they went, you know what? I don't know if we want to. I think we need to send a message to these tech CEOs in China that they still work for us.
Yeah.
And that we make the real decisions. So you lock them in a basement for a month, and then you let them out, and then they can continue doing their stuff. But now they know. If you're saying that he's the Rogan of India, I wonder if this is just a message like, yo, you're not bigger than the system. Yeah. And we're going to let you know right now you're not bigger, even though you've been good, even though, as you're saying, the criticism, he's been up their ass. It's just another reminder. Whereas with Rogan, you can't do that here. Yeah. You can't. They've tried. CNN have tried to like shame him. All these different publications tried to shame Rogan. But like at the end of the day, the American people are going to ride with the guy that they feel is giving them the truth. Yeah. And not the rhetoric.
To your point, they could be, and what the conspiracy theorists are saying, whether they're right or wrong, I'm not going to say, but the conspiracy theorists are saying, well, the law they're trying to pass is about online content and being able to censor that, which would be, to your point, all online content we can't control. If I'm another country, we can't control. We need to figure that out. Let's pass a law.
I mean, look,
theoretically, let's use the guy that's been sympathetic to us, so they know like it doesn't seem like a hit piece, or it doesn't seem like we're making an example of him and sacrificing him, even though we might be. Nobody's going to say that because they're going to say, "Oh, this guy's pro-government," so they just really believe in this bill.
But he's sympathetic now. You know what I mean? Like you got to have some control, right? True. You never know. And also, he might be sympathetic to the government, but he might be also sympathetic to the Ambanis or another very powerful family. And maybe that's the government going like, hey, we're daddy. And you got to abide by this, because putting too much power in one person, as you've noticed in America, like Joe has the influence, he can sway elections. He can sway culture. Even before the election, he can move culture in a way that will affect the election. Yeah. The election's downstream. Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. I wonder what happens in those rooms. Like, how crazy is it that comedy is at this level where the government needs to potentially step in and apply punitive measures to scare people into relinquishing their power and influence? Yeah.